Okay, let's get right into it, because what we're talking about today is a massive, fundamental shift in European geopolitics. Seriously, this changes everything.
You know, for most of modern history, this was just a given, a core principle of European stability. The Germany that emerged from World War II was built on a foundation of pacifism, and for decades, its neighbors, and frankly the world, took comfort in that.
Well, in what feels like the blink of an eye, that whole era has come to a sudden, dramatic end. The rules that have defined Europe since 1945 are being torn up and rewritten. So the big question is, why? And why now?
So let's take a look at what it took to break a taboo that has held firm for nearly a century. What could possibly be powerful enough to force Germany to completely reverse course on its most deeply held principle?
It really wasn't just one thing, was it? It was more like a perfect storm. Russia's invasion of Ukraine was the immediate, brutal shock to the system. At the same time, you have growing doubts about whether America will always be there to guarantee Europe's security. And then you have a new political leadership in Berlin that was finally willing to say, okay, the world has changed and we have to change with it.
All right, now we need to talk about the money, because the scale of this thing is, well, it's just mind-boggling. This is not some small adjustment. This is a complete financial overhaul of Germany's defense policy.
108 billion euros. That is the plan for the 2026 defense budget. Just to put that in perspective, it's the largest military budget Germany has had since the Cold War ended. Absolutely massive.
And get this, it's not a one-time cash injection. The plan is to pump almost 650 billion euros into the military over the next 5 years. That tells you this isn't a temporary fix. It's a deep, long-term commitment to rebuild from the ground up.
This chart really tells the whole story. Germany's going from spending about 1.5% of its GDP on defense to a new target of 3.5%. Now, for an economy the size of Germany's, that leap is absolutely colossal. We're talking about an incredible amount of new spending.
So where is all this cash going? Well, the goal here isn't just to catch up. The stated ambition, coming from the top, is to build the most powerful conventional army in all of Europe. It all starts with people. The plan is to grow the army, the Bundeswehr, from about 180,000 soldiers today to over 260,000. To even begin to do that, they've already brought in a new military service law that requires young men to register. It's a huge first step that could pave the way back to some form of conscription.
And just look at the hardware they're buying. This is the top-of-the-line stuff. We're talking F-35 stealth fighters, some of the most advanced jets on the planet, and hundreds of Tomahawk cruise missiles. That right there is a total game changer, giving Germany a long-range strike capability it has never, ever had before.
And if there was any doubt about the goal, this quote from Chancellor Merz makes it crystal clear. This isn't just about ticking a box for NATO. This is about achieving military primacy on the European continent. Obviously, a decision this enormous doesn't happen in a bubble. It sends shockwaves across the entire continent. And now everyone, friends and foes alike, is having to adjust to this new reality.
And you can bet no one is watching more closely or with more anxiety than France. For years, Paris has been Europe's #1 military power. Now they're in a tough spot. On the one hand, a stronger Germany is great for pushing back against Russia. But on the other hand, they're deeply worried about being overshadowed, both militarily and politically, by their neighbor. And from Moscow's point of view, well, this is both a propaganda gift and a strategic nightmare. Publicly, you'll hear them spin this as more NATO aggression, but you can be sure that behind closed doors, their generals are nervously recalculating what it means to have a fully rearmed Germany, armed with deep strike missiles right on their doorstep. So, this all leads us to the biggest question of all. What does this mean for the future? We are literally watching a new European order being born. But what's it going to look like? This right here is the heart of the transformation. For 80 years, Germany was a security consumer. It relied on others, mainly the US, for its defense. Now it's flipping the script entirely, aiming to become a security provider, a central pillar holding up the continent's defense. That's a profound change in national identity.
And really, this sets up two very different potential futures for Europe. The optimistic view? A rearmed Germany creates a stronger, more self-sufficient Europe that can stand up for itself. The pessimistic view? It reawakens old fears, old rivalries, and creates a new struggle for power and leadership right inside the alliance. Both are entirely possible.
And that's really the question we're all left with. Is this massive rearmament the wake-up call Europe desperately needed in a more dangerous world? Or does it risk opening old wounds and kicking off a new era of instability on a continent that has worked so hard to find peace? The answer to that question is going to define Europe for generations to come.